Just like, their relationship is everything to me. I love this book so much. And welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be filming another book recommendations video. Now it's been a hot minute since I've filmed a book rec video, so I'm super excited to be recommending you guys some books today. I'm going to be talking about a bunch of small town romance books today. Small town is one of my favourite tropes. I love it. Specifically like small town with like a single mom, like a grumpy love interest. I have a few of those. I've definitely read a few of those and I love that trope, and I know you guys do too. And I have a bunch of super fun small town romances. So let's just get into the recs for today. I have a fair few to recommend to you guys, so let's just get into it. I'm gonna start off with the couple that I do own the physical copies of. So the first one I feel like is one that literally 90% of people has read, but it is a small town romance, so I had to talk about it in today's video, and that is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I read this one a little while ago, and I'm not gonna lie, it's definitely not my favourite small town romance that I've read, but I thought I'd recommend it in this video because I know it is well loved by so many people, and it is a super fun small town romance. It's just not my favourite of all time, but it follows Knox and Naomi, and basically Naomi has a identical twin sister, and she's in trouble. They do not really get along, but they're always she's always kind of there for her if she needs it. So she comes down because she has an issue, and she comes down to this small town and she goes to this cafe, and everyone hates her because they think that it's her twin sister, and her twin sister causes a lot of trouble in the town and no one likes her, and so everyone thinks that she's her twin sister, but she's obviously not. And anyway, her twin sister ends up stealing her car with all of her money, leaves her with a child. her niece, who she did not know about, and she really doesn't know what to do except, you know, obviously look after the kid. And Knox is the very, very grumpy man that lives in this small town, and he decides to help her out. Don't really know why, because he doesn't like her, he's not her type, and he doesn't want anything to do with her, but he always finds himself helping her, and obviously a love story does bloom there. It is quite a chunky book, and yeah, that is the first book. Definitely small town vibes, definitely grumpy sunshine, and yeah, a really good rec if you're looking for a good small town. The next one I'm going to be talking about today is one I've talked about on my channel so much. You guys know, if you've been here for a while, it's literally my favourite book of all time. I love it so much, and I used to talk about it quite a bit, but I haven't talked about it in a hot minute, so I thought I'd definitely mention it in this video because it is perfect for a small town. And if you're going to read one book from this video, make sure it's this one. This is the best book I literally have ever read. I'm obsessed with it, and that is, if you haven't guessed already, Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. I love this book. It is my favourite thing ever. It is the epitome of small town romance. It's so good, and I love it so much, and it's my favourite thing ever. So this follows Archer, obviously, and Bree is kind of running away from her past. She has had a lot of hectic things happen in her life, and she kind of is running away from that. So she ends up moving to this small town in Maine, and she moves into a little house there, and, you know, starts getting to know the people of the town, and they're all like, stay away from Archer, he's like a bit of a weirdo, he doesn't really talk to anyone, he doesn't really interact with anyone, he kind of keeps to himself, and he's like a weird dude, like don't go near him, don't really have anything to do with him. And of course Bree is curious as to why everyone is so mean to Archer, doesn't really like him. And anyway, one day she's on a walk and her dog ends up going into Archer's backyard, and she obviously has no choice but to go after the dog, and she ends up running into Archer. Obviously it's his house, and he's kind of like, what the heck are you doing here? And she's like, oh, like, I'm so sorry, my dog, like whatever. And he's like, yeah, okay. Like, he's a really nice man, but no one really gives him the time of day because everyone thinks that he is this weird person because he doesn't speak, because he is mute. Now Archer has a crazy past, he has been through a lot, and Bree kind of wants to form a friendship with him, but Archer's super like hesitant. He's like, I don't really like want anything to do with anyone in the town, you know, like no one really likes me, everyone kind of keeps away from me. But she is super persistent. She's like, I want to be your friend. And so she starts going over to his house. They form a beautiful friendship that turns into a lovely relationship, and it's beautiful. And the way I love this man so much, Archer Hale is everything. My perfect book boyfriend. I love him so much. The things he says to her, and when I say says, I mean uses sign language, and the things that like he does for her, and just like their relationship is everything to me. I love this book so much, and if you haven't read it already, what are you doing? Go get your hands on it right now. I believe that this just got published in Australia, like picked up by an Australian publisher, so it's probably going to be in stores in Australia very soon, which is so freaking exciting because I love this book with my whole heart. So if you live in Australia and you've been wanting to get this book, because I remember it used to be really expensive on Amazon, definitely get your hands on it because it is my favourite book of all time, and you need to read it. If you haven't already, go do it right now. The last like physical book rec that I have for you guys is one that's very, very similar to Archer's Voice, definitely the same type of vibe, but a lot darker, and that is Lotus by Jennifer Hartman. It's definitely like the same vibe, small town, kind of like soft, shy boy with like more experienced, I don't want to use like bad girl because like that's definitely not, she's not like a bad girl, but like definitely more of like the soft, shy, reserved, inexperienced guy with the more experienced, outgoing, confident girl. One of my favorite tropes, definitely like that with Archer's Voice. And when I read this book, I literally thought Archer's Voice. It's literally Archer's Voice, but like so much darker. And so basically this is about Oliver and Sydney, and Oliver and Sydney were the best of friends when they were younger. They were inseparable and they were like best friends. And then one day Oliver ends up getting kidnapped by this man, and no one has seen him in 22 years. Oh my god, it's been a hot minute since I read this book, but no one's seen him in 22 years, and everyone, obviously they know he's gone missing, but they kind of stopped searching for him because it's been so long. And then one day, 22 years later, he resurfaces, but Sydney never gave up hope. Sydney never gave up hope of getting her best friend back, getting the boy that she has loved back. And obviously one day he resurfaces and everyone is shocked because they kind of thought that he was just gone forever, but he comes back. But he's been through a hell of a lot in the past 22 years. Obviously he hasn't been in society and doesn't really know how things work in like the modern day, and he, I believe, is mute, not for the whole time, but like when he gets back he doesn't speak like a word to anyone. But Sydney is obviously like, I've got like my best friend back, like I want to get to know him again and be around him. But Oliver's super like standoffish and hesitant because he is like just, oh my god, people, because he hasn't been around anyone in so long. And so slowly a little friendship starts to bloom there, and then obviously that turns into more, and they end up falling in love, and it's beautiful and I love it. And yeah, definitely Archer's Voice vibes. So if you like Archer's Voice, you'll definitely love this one. Definitely set up trigger warnings. It's definitely got a lot of triggering topics in it, but it's beautiful. I love it, and a perfect small town romance, especially if you like the like more like shy guy in a book. This one's perfect. So the next two books I have to recommend are actually part of a series. I don't know what the series itself is called, but that is Flawless by Elise Silva and Heartless by Elise Silva. So we'll talk about Flawless first. They're both definitely small town romances. They follow, it's going to be I think 2 more books in the series, and it's about like the brothers. So the first one, Flawless, I read recently. I am obsessed with this series. It's so good. This is a cowboy small town romance, and it follows Summer and Rhett. And Rhett is a bull rider. He is kind of going off the rails in terms of PR, and he's a bit of a bad boy. He sleeps around, you know, doesn't have the best reputation in the media. And Summer is his boss's, like his management company, his boss's daughter. So Summer is in charge of kind of babysitting Rhett, and basically has to follow him around and make sure he's staying out of trouble, essentially. And anyway, he obviously is from a small town, so they end up going back there, and she has to spend a lot of time around him. He's really, really into her and really attracted to her, but Summer's like, no, like we have to keep that professional relationship. Like I don't want to ruin the personal relationship we have, but like I'm attracted to you too, and obviously things are going to happen. This book is so steamy. spice, phenomenal, love it. And I'm really into cowboys after I read this book. So good, definitely perfect small town vibes. The next book in the series is Heartless, which I recently read, and that is a single dad, grumpy sunshine, nanny romance. And this one's definitely more of the small town vibes, because in Flawless they're kind of traveling a lot for the bull riding, so you're not in the small town as much, but this one you're in the small town a lot more. And so this is about Willa and Cade, and Cade is in desperate need of a nanny to look after his little 5-year-old boy Luke, and he is adorable and I love him. But all the women in the town kind of just want to get with him and don't really care about the kid as much. They want to look after the kid to get in Kate's pants, essentially. But Summer, who is the girl from the first book, obviously her best friend Willa is kind of in need of, she's free, she is not in need of a job, but like is looking for something to do, and Summer suggests Willa, and at first Kate is like, no, absolutely not. I'm too attracted to her to have her around all the time, because it's like a live-in nanny position. But obviously he sees how Willa is with his kid, and Luke ends up really liking her. So Willa gets the job of being the nanny. She moves in with them. She's the nanny from Monday to Friday, and then on like the weekends Cade is kind of spending the time with his kid. And anyway, they're obviously around each other a lot. It's forced proximity, and things are obviously gonna start to happen between them. They're super attracted to each other. Spice, again, phenomenal. Elise Silva writes some really good spice. And yeah, they slowly fall for each other, and it is beautiful. And I cannot wait for the rest of the books in this series, because there's one more brother, which I think is going to be the 4th book, and then there's like, they have like a best friend that's like basically a brother that he's going to get the next book. So I'm super excited because I love this series. And yeah, those are the next 2 recs that I have for you guys. The next book that I have to talk about today is The Wrong Mr. Right by Stephanie Archer. This one is, of course, a small town romance, and it follows Hannah and Wyatt. And Hannah is kind of lost in the dating department. She doesn't really know what she's doing. She needs some help to get out there and start dating a bit more, and she is a bit of a nerd. She's a little bookworm. We love that. She loves her romance books, and she runs a bookstore in the small town. It's like one of the only bookstores in the small town, and Wyatt is kind of always in and out of the store, and she has known him since high school, I believe. And anyway, she asks him one day if he can help her learn how to date, really, and kind of like figure out what she's doing, and he agrees, as long as it's on his terms, of course, and helps her out on how to date. Okay, so ignore the fact that I look absolutely disgusting right now, but I'm currently editing this video, and apparently I just never finished talking about The Wrong Mr. Right. I don't know if I lost the footage or what, but it just like cuts off. So basically, as I was saying, he like helps her kind of learn how to date, because she's like doesn't really know what she's doing. As she goes on more dates and spends more time with him, he starts to fall for her, obviously, and then the jealousy happens. There is definitely a big jealousy trope in this book, as she's obviously going on all these dates with different guys. He gets a little bit jealous because he's like falling for her, and yeah, slowly a romance does bloom there. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and it's a really good small town romance. And if you love like when the heroine or one of the characters even just is a big reader, especially a romance reader, then you'll love this book, because she is like the biggest romance reader, and she obviously runs a bookstore and everything, so it's so good. The next book that I have to recommend to you guys today is Southern Storms by Britney C Cherry. Britney C Cherry is like one of my favorite authors of all time. She writes a lot of small town romances. Her Element series, I believe, is pretty much all the books in there are small town romances. Like The Air He Breathes, I know definitely is, and then The Silent Waters is as well. But I've talked about those books so many times on my channel that I wanted to recommend something a bit different from her, and one of her recent series follows a bunch of characters that I believe are from a small town, but not all of them take place in the small town. So the first one, Southern Storms, takes place in a small town. I've only read the first one, but I really enjoyed this one, and it's about Jax and Kennedy. And Jax has a crazy past. He is a grumpy man and has been through a lot, and Kennedy is going through a divorce, and she's kind of like on the run from her, not like on the run, but like she wants to get away from the town that she's living in. So her sister and her brother-in-law renovate houses, and they have this like little cottage in this small town that she can move into while they're on vacation. And so she ends up moving in there, and it's like the woods at the back of it goes into like Jax's property. And so she's exploring one day and she runs into Jax, and Jax is like obviously a very mean, grumpy man. Everyone's kind of like, stay away from him, he's like, you know, not the nicest person. And anyway, he ends up yelling at her for like trespassing and starts an enemies to lovers little relationship. But she's super curious about him, and he can like see that she's been through a lot and like has this like draw to her, but he doesn't know why. There's obviously a thing there, maybe is intertwined in their lives. You'll have to read and find out. But yeah, obviously they're going to be around each other all the time in the small town. They're going to be running into each other, and eventually things start to happen between them. You start to find out what their like connection is, what this draw that they have to each other is, and I love it. It's so good. And the next two books are like very similar in the sense that they're definitely like the single mum, small town, grumpy guy romance. So the first one is 1% of You, and this one I read quite a while ago, but I remember it being really good. So it follows Lucy and Elijah is this very grumpy man who kind of hates the world, and he's a tattoo artist, I believe. Either that or he's just covered in tattoos. One or the other. And Lucy ends up moving in next door to him, or like across the road from him. Anyway, in like the same like area. And she is a single mum of 2 kids, and I believe she's pregnant with one as well. And so her and Elijah do not get off on the right foot. Something happens in the supermarket, and he basically has a fight with her like 5-year-old child, and they do not like each other at all, do not get along. But obviously she's a single mom, she is trying her best, but she is pregnant and she is struggling. Elijah ends up, you know, helping her, and it's beautiful and I love it. And they're obviously going to be around each other a lot because they are neighbours, and he always finds himself over there helping, and he ends up forming a really cute connection with the kids as well, which I love. And obviously slowly they end up falling for each other, and it's beautiful. Very similar to the next book that I'm going to talk about as well, and the next book is Meet Me Halfway. I love this one, it's so good. This follows Maddie and Garrett, and it's very similar vibes to 1% of You, where she's a single mum and Garrett is a very grumpy man who literally hates everything in life, and they live like next door to each other in like adjoining like I don't know how to describe it. There is like a word for these type of houses where they're like identical, like they're kind of like units, like identical units, but they are like next door to each other. That was a really good explanation. So her bedroom is like directly opposite to his bedroom, like the wall, they share a wall. And so she's in there studying one night because she's a queen boss lady single mom. She works like 3 jobs and she's studying to, I can't remember what she's studying to become, but like yeah, she's studying, and she has a little, I think he's like maybe like 10-11-year-old boy, and she's obviously trying to provide for her family, trying to like thrive in life. And she's studying one night, she's playing music, not that loud, but apparently it's really loud to Garrett, and he ends up leaving a very angry note on her door, and they do not get along from there. This book is slow burn, keep that in mind. It's very slow burn, and they do not like each other at the start. It's very much enemies to lovers. They do not get along, and then slowly they start seeing more of each other. Obviously they're next door, and he's always saying like these mean things to her because he's a grumpy man. She's very sunshine. And anyway, slowly he starts finding himself, you know, helping her over there, forming a very cute relationship with the kid. And then slowly, and I mean slowly, things start to happen there. They form a very cute friendship and start like doing more things together, and then slowly that turns into lovers, and I love it. So that is all the books for this small town romance video. I'm definitely still in my like small town era, like I'm reading so many, so I could definitely do a part 2 if you guys want. And if you guys have any small town romance recs, leave them in the comments. I know Devney Perry writes a lot of small town romances. I've only read 1 book by her, that's why I didn't really include any, but I know like Indigo Ridge, Juniper Hill, that type of vibe is some very good small town romances, so I definitely want to read more of her. But if you guys have any recs, definitely leave them in the comments, because I'm always on the lookout for more small town romance books. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys!